With 2017 coming to a close, we can now look back on the year and see what films have been given to us. We've gotten good, we've gotten bad, we've gotten meh. And yes, that is meant exactly how you think it is. With the end of the year coming soon, I wanted to look back at the 7 big-name superhero movies that came out in 2017. I say 7 even though I honestly think there were 10. The 3 films I won't be looking at are the Lego Ninjago movie, Power Rangers, and Captain Underpants. And I won't be including them on this list for one simple reason. I didn't see them. Before I begin, I do want to say 2 things. First of all, this is not an objective, qualitative ranking of these movies and how I honestly think they have impacted audiences as a whole and how they will be viewed from future generations. It's just my personal opinion. This is how I personally view these films. And also, second, I don't think any of these movies are actually bad. I actually liked all of these movies. It's just that some of them resonated much better with me than others. Oh yeah, and one more thing before I start. I'm basing my rankings strictly from the movies themselves. I have never read any of these comics, so I don't know anything about the backstory of these characters and whether or not they're being true to them. So if you didn't like these characters because they weren't being true to the source material, fine. Just understand I'm looking at them purely from a cinematic perspective. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and start, beginning with number 7, Wonder Woman. And I can tell I've probably already lost a few people that decided to actually click on this video. Yes, out of the superhero films that came out this year, this one was my least favorite. And again, I do like this film. There are things about it I like. I like Chris Pine, I like Gal Gadot, I think the action sequences were well done, and I really like the way Wonder Woman herself was written. This isn't just some counteractive reaction to the typical female role in films. This was an actual person who shows love and anger and a strong drive to protect her comrades and her friends against those with malicious intent. And we see in her the ignorance of the real world and her having to learn about it through her, the people she meets, while at the same time becoming a motivator for everyone else to fight for what they believe in. So there's this, give and take relationship where she's learning from her comrades while at the same time helping them to become better people. But aside from that, there were a lot of things in this film I really didn't like, or that just didn't interest me. The dialogue, the music, most of the jokes fell flat for me. Most of the characters, Ewan Bremner, I loved the guy in Trainspotting. I think he's a great actor, but dear God, was his character useless in this. And the villains were all extremely underwhelming. Credit to David Thewlis for trying. I just didn't care for it. Number 6, Thor Ragnarok. From DC to Marvel. Gotta keep it fair. Yeah, I'm one of those people that wasn't actually blown away by this movie. And my main problem with it is that it's okay after telling joke after joke after joke after joke after joke to take a serious look at the gravity of the situation you have on your hands. There were way too many jokes in this film, and I'd be more forgiving of them if more of them landed. But a good chunk of the jokes just did not land for me. And after a while, I just got fatigued. And for that matter, I think this film could have been cut back at least 15 minutes. It was a bit too long. I think Karl Urban was wasted talent in this film. And seriously, am I the only one in the world who didn't like Korg? I mean, I've read reviews where people thought he was the funniest part of the film. He reminded me of one of the comic reliefs from one of Michael Bay's Transformers movies. And people say, humor is subjective. It is. But seriously, am I the only one who hated him? But hey, credit where credit's due. Visually, the film is fantastic. It's got great performances by Chris Hemsworth, Cate Blanchett, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins. Jeff Goldblum is wonderful in this film. The build-up between the fight for Thor and the Hulk is really well done, and thank you, Marvel, for finally giving some character to the Hulk. Yes, it's simplistic characterization, but he is a simple character, and now he actually has some. Number 5, the Lego Batman movie. This is one of 2 animated films that came out this year that I was actually looking forward to. And this was a good movie, but it didn't quite measure up to my expectations. It has some good humor. I really got to give credit to Will Arnett. He is a very talented voice actor. And Michael Cera, I did not expect to like him as much. I really enjoyed him as Robin. And also Ralph Fiennes and Rosario Dawson. They also did really good voice performances in this. It's a solid film, but there's just nothing really that special about it. It does not measure up to the Lego movie. It's not even close. I didn't laugh out loud once at any of the jokes in this. And the whole plot point of Batman being a loner, being a solitary superhero, always pushing away everyone else, got old. And I mean that because as they were moving through the second act, they started to resolve this character arc for him. And then they revived it, just so they can resolve it at the end, or in the third act. That was completely pointless. And honestly, it made the film seem longer for me than it really was. I also am not sure, I didn't really agree with Zach Galifianakis as the Joker, because you could have taken that voice and put it on a dozen other villains, and it would have fit just as well. But yeah, still a good movie. Number 4, Justice League. Now, I will admit this film does have its problems. A lot of the visuals in this film just don't work. Especially the effects they tried to use to cover up Henry Cavill's mustache. Yeah, they did not work. The villain in this is extremely cliched and forgettable. And a lot of the humor that was added to this film has a nice big Marvel stamp on it. And I would like to attribute a lot of that to Joss Whedon, but I can't know for sure. But yeah, I actually really did enjoy this film. A lot more than a lot of other people, apparently. I like the way the characters were written. I like the way they introduced the Flash and Cyborg in this, as opposed to having their own movies first, because it actually plays into the story, and it plays into how they function within the Justice League. So it really did make sense to do it that way. The conflict that arises between Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman about the decision they're trying to make is sensible and handled with maturity. Ray Fisher and Ezra Miller both do great jobs in their roles. I think they could have given a little more personality to Cyborg, but still I do think that he was a surprisingly good character. I think everyone knows by now Superman is revived in this movie, and they actually turned it into a likable person. My exception to my amicability to the Justice League is with Aquaman. And it's not that I really didn't like the character. He did feel like a bit of a caricature, so I did have my problem with that. But I really think they should have come out with the Aquaman movie first and then did Justice League, because they present this kind of mystery with him that lets you know that he has been doing what he's been doing for a long time. And like I said, I really did enjoy this movie, and I'm looking forward to what DC has next to offer. Number 3, Spider-Man Homecoming. This was the surprise of the year for me. I did not go into this film with high expectations, but I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I haven't really seen a Spider-Man that I really loved. I liked the first 2 Sam Raimi movies a lot, but even then, I wasn't a huge fan of them. And I have gotten a bit of Spider-Man fatigue. But this film impressed me. It has some really good writing, some great humor, great performances from Tom Holland and Michael Keaton, and the guy that plays his friend Ned, Jacob Batalon? I'm not quite sure. But he was a lot of fun to watch. My only real complaint with the film were the action sequences. It's only because I really couldn't tell what was going on half the time. And maybe it's just the theater I sat in, but I honestly don't think so. I remember seeing it and thinking that the camera work in this film was kind of crappy, because the camera was shaking all over the place and I could not tell what was going on with a lot of these fight sequences. But that was my only real complaint with the film. I thought it was a solid film with some great writing. And I'm really hoping this is the last major iteration of Spider-Man for a while. Number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2. I'm somewhat torn with where I stand with this film in relation to the first film. On the one hand, I think the first film was definitely better written. It had better jokes, and I like the way it focused on building up the character personalities so that we come to know the characters really well, and I think it made them a lot more likable. I also really miss Adult Groot. I liked Baby Groot, don't get me wrong, but I just think that Adult Groot was so awesome, and it just didn't seem like the same Groot without him. With that said, Volume 2 does have its own strengths, and a lot of that comes from the character interactions, not just with the 4 main characters, but also some of the side characters, chiefly Mantis, Nebula, and all hail Michael Rooker, Yondu. They really delve into the backstory of these characters, giving them their own development and diving into their psyche so we can see their motivation and how their actions, because of that, affect the Guardians themselves. I think the one who benefited the least from this was Drax. He was the surprise character for me in the first one, but in this they really played down his character and his character's importance in this film, and playing it off a lot as humor. I feel similar to Peter Quill in this film as I did for the first film. I really liked him, but I don't think his character was as interesting as the others. Rocket is still my favorite character, and he definitely has his own moments throughout the film, especially at the end. But I think the characters who benefited the most from Volume 2 are Gamora and Yondu. Gamora, for me at least, was my least favorite Guardian in the first film, and she's one of my favorite characters in the second one. Yondu, for me, is the star of this film. Michael Rooker gave us one of the best performances of his career and one of the best performances in this movie. And my number 1 favorite superhero movie of 2017 is Logan. I think my brother said it best when he said, this movie looks like a really good X-Men film because it doesn't look like an X-Men film. It's dark, it's gritty, and it has a sense of realism that gives it weight that most comic book movies just cannot match. The despondency of the characters that we spent years and years getting to know, watching them struggle just to end up to where they are, really gives this movie a sense of great emotion. Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart both give powerhouse performances in this, and newcomer Daphne Keane is utterly amazing. The fight scenes in this are raw and really benefit from the R rating. I absolutely love the action sequence in the casino that's halfway through the film. I think my only real complaint with the film is that it starts to devolve into a typical X-Men film at the end action sequence. But it really picks itself up at the very ending, which I'll admit, my eyes started to well up. It's dark, it's surprising, it's unrelenting. It's just an utterly fantastic film. Did you agree with this list? Did you disagree with it? Tell me below. Tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm wrong. All I can say is, 2018 is around the corner, and we have much to look forward to.